So as everybody knows, President Trump is fed up with the press. But he still gives more access to the media than any other president in modern times by far. Very perplexing. He knows he's going to get hammered and gives the access anyway. That is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. So this really played out yesterday. So the Prime Minister of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, comes to the USA, big dog and pony show. Sorry about the cliche. And Salman and Trump are buddies. Salman's investing $1 trillion into the USA, so he says. All right, so they go all over what they're going to do, and we'll get into that in a moment. But they're having a good time. Big dinner last night. And today, it carried over to today. This is big because Saudi Arabia is extremely wealthy, can help the USA economically, can help the USA with Putin and Iran. So they're our pals now. Under Biden, they were not our pals, which is a better situation. I think you know. So there is President Trump, most powerful man in the world, sitting next to bin Salman, who doesn't believe in the free press at all. And if you ever were rude to him in Saudi Arabia, your head would be rolling in the sand. All right? Enter Chief White House Correspondent for ABC News, Mary Bruce. Okay? Now, she's been on the case since 2021. She is a notorious Trump baiter. And Mary did not let us down yesterday. Roll the tape.
Is it appropriate, Mr. President, for your family to be doing business in Saudi Arabia while you're president? Is that a conflict of interest? And Your Royal Highness, the U.S. intelligence concluded that you orchestrated the brutal murder of a journalist. 9/11 families are furious that you are here in the Oval Office.
Who are you with?
Why should Americans trust
Who are you with?
And the same to you, Mr. President.
Now, who are you with?
I'm with ABC News, sir.
You with who?
ABC News, sir.
Fake news. ABC fake news. One of the
But the
worst.
question is
One of the
legitimate,
worst
sir.
in the business. But I'll answer your question.
Thank you.
I have nothing to do with the family business. I have left, and when I've devoted 100% of my energy. What my family does is fine. They do business all over. They've done very little with Saudi Arabia, actually. I'm sure they could do a lot.
Okay. Now, the questions were legitimate. I would have asked them, but not in the accusatory way Miss Bruce did. She was not looking to elicit information. This is the key. When you are a White House correspondent or any other valid reportorial job, your task is to get information to the American public. That is not what Mary Bruce wanted to do. She wanted to gotcha. She wanted to embarrass. You could hear it in her voice, the tone. Where was it? Now, here's what she could have said. All right? This is what she could have said. Mr. President, in a calm manner, is there any validity to your critics saying that your family is making big money in Saudi Arabia? Simple question. Any validity to that? It's not accusatory. And then to the leader of Saudi Arabia, Mr. Crown Prince or Mr. whatever you want to call him. Is there any validity to the United States intelligence operations believing that your government assassinated a journalist? That's it. Yes or no? And you could follow up with a why or why not, depending on the answer. Does that make sense to you? That's how professionals do it. It's how I've done it for more than 50 years. But I've made mistakes, and I'm going to go over one of those mistakes that I think you'll find interesting. But President Trump knows that Mary Bruce, NBC, CBS to a lesser extent now that it's been sold, CNN, MS Now, whatever it is, He knows they're in business to embarrass him, not to get information, yet he still gives them access. For me, I wouldn't. I just wouldn't do it. Because the Saudis already feel that the American system is ridiculous, so do the Chinese, so does Putin. Again, if you tried that, if Mary Bruce tried that in Riyadh, the capital of Saudi Arabia, it might not be around much too long there. So why? Why does President Trump allow this stuff to happen time after time after time after time? And I think he just likes the joust. I think he wants to show his supporters that he's not going to take any BS, that he'll kick back. I think that's what it is, but we've got it now. And these are important things. So summing up, not going to change. You got 3 more years of this. I do respect President Trump being accessible to the press. I mean, Biden, forget it. Never in a million years going to answer out of him. And I was wrong. Now, that's not what democracy is. But sometimes you might cut back a little bit. That's a memo. American homeowners, the FBI has been warning all of us about a type of real estate fraud called title theft. The target, your equity. With just a forged signature, ownership can be transferred out of your name, and without protection in place, you are facing an emotional and financial nightmare. That's why I partner up with Home Title Lock. You can find out today if you are already a victim and protect yourself. Use promo code BILL at HometitleLock.com to get a free title history report plus a free trial of their $1 million triple lock protection. That's 24/7 monitoring, urgent alerts, and if you are a victim of fraud, they will spend up to $1 million to fix it. Don't be a victim. Protect your equity today. That's HometitleLock.com, promo code BILL, or use the link below. That's HometitleLock.com, promo code BILL. All right, so joining us now from El Paso, Texas, is Dylan Corbett. He is the executive director of Hope Border Institute. Okay, first thing. When 10 to 15 million migrants entered the USA under the Biden administration, did you or your organization object to that?
Hey, Bill. It's good to have you. It's good to be with you. Great to be on your program. Thanks for the invitation. It's a good question. I think there was the perception that not everything was as orderly as it could have been under the Biden administration. And I think we were certainly vocal about some real criticisms that we had. The way that they enforced immigration law at the border, the way that they really didn't coordinate the arrivals, they didn't do enough to coordinate it in a secure, in an orderly, in a safe way here at the border, the way that they didn't coordinate the arrival of people into many of the interior cities like we saw in New York, that generated perceptions of chaos, that generated the perception that the system wasn't working. And I think that we were fairly critical. There were also a number of people, because they did take some real steps in the direction of increased enforcement at the border. And here in El Paso, for example, during the Biden administration, we saw the numbers of people skyrocketing, the numbers of people who were dying at the border skyrocketing because there was no real way.
And Holman made that point. But look, we researched your organization. We didn't find anything that you objected to the open border policies of the Biden administration. No statement, no interview by you, nothing. So you might have been disturbed by the chaotic aspect of it, but you certainly didn't come out and say, look, we need to stop this. So Trump gets elected, he stops it almost immediately. So what you saw and your agency had to deal with disappeared in about 45 days. Did you object to Trump stopping it?
Well, I think that we all agree. I think Americans, whether they're on the right or on the left, whether they're Republicans or Democrats, that we need to have a well-managed border.
Okay,
That
but
we've
what Trump did, though, let's get specific, not theoretical. Theory gets us nowhere in this interview. Trump stopped it. Do you object to the way he did it?
yeah, I certainly have some issues with the way he did it because there's
Okay,
a cost.
give me one objection. What did he do that you don't like?
You know that there's a cost to doing what the president did. The president basically, he shredded our system of asylum, and he shredded our system of receiving refugees, people who are fleeing. They're fleeing wars, they're fleeing serious violence, they're fleeing serious causes of poverty, which are driving them to flee and to migrate to our border in search of protection. Now,
Okay, so
we receive all of those
you
people
think that he
certainly.
shredded it. Now, the official policy of Homeland Security is you can apply for asylum in the United States. You have to go to a port of entry to do so. You can't just be caught in the desert in Texas or Arizona, say to the ICE agent or the Border Patrol agent, I want asylum, which is what Biden allowed. That was the big thing. They disregarded, the Biden administration, the law Congress passed in 1952 saying all asylum must go through the American consulate or embassy in the home country or in the American ports of entry. Now, Trump is enforcing that. You can still apply for asylum here. So you have an objection to that?
Well, I'd question that a little bit, Bill, because I think that the system of asylum really isn't being respected, neither at ports of entry nor in between ports of entry. I'd quibble a little bit with how you characterize asylum law because people do have the right under our federal law to apply for asylum, even if they were to cross in between
But
ports
they
of
can
entry.
still do that. They don't have the right to apply for it on the ground. They have to go to a port of entry or an American facility in their home country. That's the law. That's what it says.
There we'd have to disagree because right now you're not able to go to a consulate in Mexico or in Central America to apply to asylum. It simply doesn't
Why not?
exist.
You
If
can
came to
go.
a port of entry, I can tell you right now from my experience, I'm only just a couple of miles from the port of entry here in El Paso. If you were to apply for asylum there, you're going to get turned back. You're going to get sent back to Mexico. So the system right now is not functional. We don't have an asylum system in the United
All
States
right,
right now.
let me look into that because from what I understand, it is still a functioning system. But if you're right, you're right, and I'll report it. Okay, let's move ahead. So you've got now between 10 and 15 new migrants that weren't here in the first Trump administration that are now here.
Mm-hmm.
What is the responsibility of the United States government to support those people?
Yeah, you raise a good question. And I think you said earlier in the segment that the United States government really does have a responsibility to know who's coming into our country. And we do.
Yes.
Important. We've got to manage the border so that it's done in a safe way. We've got to protect the national security of our country. And we've got to protect local communities. If people are threats to our community, as you said earlier, you support immigration enforcement of those who are threats. We do have to go after legitimate threats. We shouldn't be allowing anyone to game the system, to exploit the system. We shouldn't be allowing traffickers to take advantage of the broken system. So immigration enforcement really does need to prioritize safety. We can agree on that. Now, what do we do with the other folks who are in the country, some of whom have been in the country for a long time, many who've been here for more than 10 years, many who've been here for more than 20 years, many people who have roots in the country. Their children are going to our schools. They might have a small business. What do we do about those folks? That's the question on the table right now. Whether you agree with what's happening on the border or not, the question right now is what do we do with what we're seeing in the country around enforcement? You mentioned the bishop's statement. I think the big takeaway from the bishops is that they're really pushing back against mass deportation as a strategy for dealing with this population.
But it's really not mass because, if you look at how many migrants are being detained, it's 5% would be a hard number, all right, of all the people who were allowed in here under Biden. But I understand that. I would go a different way. I would. Well, you don't object to criminal aliens being deported immediately, do you?
Well, I think we do need to remove anyone who's a threat to the safety
All right,
of our.
so criminal aliens gone. And that includes DUIs, domestic services. Right. The problem is, according to Director Homan, who's an honest man, he's a hard, I was going to say hard, he's a hard guy, but when they raid, looking for migrants that have judges' orders signed for deportation and criminals when they raid. Very often there are others with them, girlfriends, brothers, sisters, children, who are here without credentials, and they have to bring them all in. That's what the government says. Is that wrong?
Well, as you said, I do think we've got to target people who are threats to our local community. But that's not what we're seeing right now. The data are pretty clear, Bill. If we look at everybody, for example, who's been targeted and arrested and detained this year under the Trump administration, 2/3 of people don't have a criminal conviction. So that's the vast majority. We're talking about the overwhelming percentage of people who have been targeted.
Okay, but 1/3 with criminal interactions, that's a hell of a lot of people in danger. But I'm with you. We don't have a disagreement there. If there's another way, if there's another way to adjudicate peaceful, undocumented migrants, then we should explore that. Congress's responsibility, of course, to do that,
absolutely.
And they don't do it. Okay.
There we agree. Yeah, we've got a broken system, and both parties are at fault, and it's been broken for a long time. And that's the reason that we're in this predicament right now, because we've kicked the can, both the president, the White House.
100%. You can't be going a 1952 law and it's 2025 and you people sit around and do nothing. Now, the Catholic Church, if you look at the theology, are you Catholic?
I am, just like you.
Okay.
We're Catholics.
Okay, so we have to be compassionate to everybody who's poor and in a bad circumstance, and that includes undocumented migrants. And I am. I can prove it. But the Catholic Church, refuses to use the words undocumented, won't use it, and number two, portrays this as an issue where the government is the bad guy. The U.S. government is the bad guy. And I'll submit to you that the bishops are misguided because the government is trying to protect Americans from this massive wave that nobody has any control over. Do you see my point?
I see what you're saying. I would say that the bishops, and I worked for the bishops for a number of years. I worked for the Vatican for a number of years. I think what's really happening is that these religious leaders are responding to what their local communities are seeing across the country. They're responding to two things. They're responding to that, the reality of these actions of ICE and immigrant enforcement and the raids that are really ugly. They're brutal. I mean, we're talking about moms being separated from families. We're talking about, there's been situations where school teachers have been ripped out of schools, where parents have been ripped out of cars, where their kids are left behind. Nobody wants to see that. That's not the way to.
But that's not the rule. That is the exception.
I think that they're responding to that, though. They're seeing. I mean, you've seen the images coming out of Chicago, of Los Angeles. Where we're deploying the Department of Homeland Security, but also the FBI, and in some cases the National Guard and the military. Nobody wants to see this. It's not good. And in fact, it's turning off a lot of voters. A lot of people who supported Trump and said, "Yeah, we want a secure border. Yeah, we got to fix the immigration system." A lot of people are stepping back. He's losing in the Latino vote. So I think the bishops are responding to what they're seeing locally, but they're also responding to the Pope. Pope Leo, he's been outspoken about this, especially in the last couple months.
But that's his job. See,
right away.
But I'd like to interview Pope Leo. We're working on it, but I don't think he's going to do it. But I would say, Your Holiness, my first question after asking him for forgiveness would be, listen, every government, legitimate government, has an obligation to protect its people.
Yep.
And when you let 10 to 15 million unsupervised foreign nationals into a country, that's not protecting your people, Your Holiness, is it? I'd love to see how he answers that one. And they all fall back on the teacher in the school or the mom and I got it. But there is a tremendous problem here fostered by our own government under Biden. I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, I think the Holy Father would respond this way. I think he'd say, you're right. There's a place for borders. There's a place for for governments managing immigration so that it's done in a way that's efficient and meets our national security needs and maybe even meets our economic needs. I think the Holy Father would probably agree with that. But he'd also say that when we lead with compassion, that when we honor the stranger, when we welcome the stranger, we'll be better off for it because it's the Christian thing to do, it's the right thing to do, but it's also the American thing to do. He's from America. He knows this is a country that's benefited from the contributions of migrants, that they're key to our economic resilience, our social resilience. They make us great as a country. And I think he'd remind us of that there's got to be a better way, that compassion.
Well, there's got to be a better way. You're right. But it isn't letting everybody in. And that is the impression that the Catholic Church is giving, not only the USA, but in Europe as well. Mr. Corbett, very good debate. We really appreciate you, and thank you for coming on today. We don't talk enough about those truly making a positive impact. So let's take a moment to discuss Delta Rescue, the world's largest no-kill care-for-life animal sanctuary. Home to more than 1,500 rescued animals. It is staffed by trained specialists who provide lifelong care, love, and safety. They do incredible work. But look, it's important to remember that Delta Rescue relies solely on contributions from us. I have donated, and so should you. Their founder, Leo Grillo, built a legacy of dedication and everlasting love for animals. So consider making it a part of your legacy too. Talk with an estate planner. Check out the estate planning tab at deltarescue.org. You can make a difference, even get potential tax benefits. So please visit deltarescue.org today to learn more. deltarescue.org. Let's face it, the U.S. economy is under stress. National debt rising, trade war shaking the markets. And meanwhile, China is dumping the dollar and stockpiling gold. That's why I protected my savings with physical gold and silver through the only dealer I trust, American Hartford Gold. And you can do this. Get precious metals delivered to your door or place in a tax-advantaged gold IRA. They'll even help you roll over your existing IRA or 401k, tax and penalty free. With billions in precious metals delivered, thousands of five-star reviews, and an A+ from the Better Business Bureau, you can trust American Hartford Gold as I do. Please call 866-501-5201 or text BILL to 65532. Again, that's 866-501-5201 or text BILL to 65532. Final thought of the day, as you know, we're out in LA recently. Did a bunch of stuff, Mar and Billy Bush and Howie Mandel. Now, Howie Mandel is a podcast. Howie Mandel does stuff. He's on it with his daughter, who's very liberal. And I had to explain capitalism to her. Roll it. So there is a pathway to success in capitalism. That means that you isolate your talent. Mm-hmm. So I've always loved your father's humor. I don't know why, there's something wrong with me, but he just cracks me up.
It's dad jokes. I went to see him. Dad jokes.
I went to see him.
Somebody thinks it.
You guys.
Yeah, I went to see him at Westbury.
Why didn't you come back and say hi?
I did, but you were so stoned you didn't know it was me.
Were you? You might have been.
Lying.
You might have been.
No. I did greet him, and then he acknowledged me on the stage. But he just makes me laugh because his timing is perfect. All right, and I'm a pro.
Great. I'm amazing.
And
you love this interview.
It's the best interview ever.
Just keep complimenting him.
When I was walking into the theater at Westbury, everybody knows me, and they go, "Oh, why are you coming to see Howie?" I go, "Because the guy's blank and funny." All right, so, but there's more to it than that. So he knew that he was born, that God gave him this sense of humor. Okay, and he paid the price to work his way up to affluence and prominence. That's capitalism. All right, so we had a good time with the Mandels. I think you will too. Howie Mandel does stuff. It is a legitimate podcast. I hope you watch it. And he actually read Confronting Evil. He told me he doesn't read many books, but he was enthralled by evil. So I thank Howie and his daughter for putting up with me. And I thank you for watching this edition of the No Spin News. I'm Bill O'Reilly. See you again on Monday. Thank you for watching. To view full episodes of the No Spin News anytime, sign up to become a BillO'Reilly.com premium or concierge member today.